Good morning, everyone. So we are here for the final conference of TalkNET project. TalkNET project is a project that basically ran for more than 3 years right now. So a very big project that involved a lot of partners. We will know more about the project along all day. But first of all, I will be your moderator. I'm Public Affairs and Innovation Manager of Gruber Logistics. So I'm really excited that we have been selected, let's say, for this role. Me personally, because I truly believe in territorial cooperation projects, so the projects that put together a lot of partners with different roles in order to achieve a common goal. But also Gruber Logistics is really happy since the scopes of TalkNET project deal with two main big topics, which are from one side the eco-innovation and from the other side the intermodality. So topics that are really important for Gruber Logistics. By the way, today we are in the port of Venice, which is the lead partner of TalkNET project. So let's say that the main important player that developed this project, that coordinate in an excellent way this project along all these 3 years. I'm speaking about 3 years because actually 3 years is the time of implementation of the project. But if we consider also the time the project has been developed, and then presented for the grant to the European Commission, it requires, let's say, more than 5 years. But as I said, we will know more about it along the days. We will have keynote speech. By the way, it's not really an event focused on a celebration. Our idea is to think more about the future. What will come next? What will be the future of the transport and logistics? Which will be the impact of the eco-innovation and which will be the impact of intermodality? So we will know it more along all these days. Let's start from the president of the Port of Venice, and to be more exactly, the president of the North Adriatic Seaport Authority. So I will leave the floor to Pino Musolino, that unfortunately is not here with us today. We have a lot of the different constrictions for the COVID crisis, so a lot of people will not be here today. Pino Musolino in particular had a very important institutional event, but he wanted to be present with a recorded video. So please, Mr. Pino Musolino, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning, everybody, and apologies for not being there in presence and registering this short speech, but I'm very, very proud today to conclude our TalkNET project, first and foremost because it was one of the first projects I participated since I took over the Office of President of the Port Authority back in 2017. So I had the chance to oversee the whole process from the kickoff until the end. Well, of course, thanks to all the participants, particularly all the 15 partners that were walking together with us into this beautiful journey that we have performed for 3 years on the project. Well, we don't need to give too many details. Most of you know almost everything about it, but 36 months, 2.5 million, 100% co-funded by the institutions, and the objective was essentially to promote coordination of stakeholders in terms of freight transport logistic chains, particularly with the aim of optimizing and having an eco-friendly attitude towards the logistic chains and the logistic nodes, particularly for ports and freight villages. Of these 15 partners, 8 Central Europe countries were represented, 9 ports, and this is quite remarkable, and 3 regional authorities, 1 freight village, 2 rail operators and 1 logistic operators. We were spreading across most of the Central Europe. There were Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, Hungary, Slovakia, Poland, Czech Republic and Germany involved. It's been a great journey, and I'd like to stress out some points, because at the end, you know, the main results in terms of sustainability and building up a sustainable mobility and connectivity. It's a big aim and it's a great goal, but it's made of small little tiles that are composing a bigger picture. We have worked hard in order to tackle particularly the issue of sustainable freight transport. As you all know, most of the actual negative contribution in terms of GHG emissions are given by transport in all its particular sites. Particularly the seaborne transport is actually the culprit of a large part of global emissions, together with the railroad and particularly the road haulage. And so building up modalities and systems that are bringing us to a lower impact in terms of emissions and in terms of weight and burden that we give to our territories is fundamental, because the other side of the coin is that 90% of the global trade is based and sustained on international transport of goods. Well, among the results achieved by this partnership, we had for sure 11 pilot actions that were implemented and tested, some of which are significant, such as the optimization of the terminal operations and logistic management in the ports of Venice, Rijeka, and in the Codognoto, Poland freight village, and a feasibility study for a new rail terminal connectivity for the Verona freight village, the improvement of multimodal services by the removal of bottlenecks. As you know better than me, more often than not, some of the non-efficiency or the inefficiency that we are meeting are caused by bottlenecks, which essentially are slowing down or congesting the main lines of transportation. And so the removal of bottlenecks is quite a significant line where we have to develop and improve our systems. And the routes that were affected or interested by this removal of bottlenecks was the Verona freight village and the Codognoto, Poland. The deployment of alternative fuel solutions. This is another field where sustainable actions needs to be implemented ASAP, I'd say. So for the fuel solutions in port terminals and logistics operations in the port of Budapest and in Codognoto, Poland with the LNG, and then of course management solutions to increase energy efficiency in transport and handling operations. The energy efficiency is one of my main goals or obsessions. I think it's the low-hanging fruit. You know, among all the alternative energies, probably energy efficiency is the fastest and easiest to achieve. We don't need to wait for hydrogen when we can do more with less or better with the same quantity of energies. And in addition to all the above, TalkNET also implemented the test of true training pathways for energy efficiency deployment in the rail sector, particularly with locomotion and rail cargo Hungary. So, well done, everybody. It's been 36 intense months of work, but I think we have accomplished quite a lot of the goals that initially we had in mind with these projects, and probably much more. We have learned to work together towards sustainable goals, which is still something that we are all experiencing. Well, let's not forget that the SDGs are just 5 years old, so they are almost entering into primary school. And so we need to work hard in order to build, more than anything, a sustainability leadership attitude that spans across all sectors and all levels of public and private sector management. Particularly for the ports that I have the pleasure and the honor to chair, so the ports of Venice and Chioggia, we have worked very hard in the last 3 years to achieve sustainable development, particularly with the 3-year operational and strategic plan 2017-2020, which were essentially the program that I undertook when I took office. Well, the environmental objectives were on the top of the list, particularly with this project with TalkNET. We have developed and aimed at improving our let's say carbon footprint, and in any event, and having a better, a more sustainability focused attitude towards our actions. Of course, the recent European Green Deal agenda, it's path to follow in the next future. But also, you know, we've got the 10 environmental priorities of the European Seaports Associations, and as I said already, the hallmark of the SDGs that should be the you know, the main road upon which we are building all the next actions in our activities. The program or the commitment of the EU institution has been massive in this recent period, and it will be even better and more concrete in the future. For what we have done, particularly, we are super proud of what we have done with the LNG developments. We have developed together with a Connecting Europe facility grant of approximately 28 million euros, so not a small cake, let's say. We have developed together with a private company the LNG terminal of the future in our ports, 32,000 cubic meters of LNG available for serving not just the seaborne trade, but also the inland trade together with the freight villages and the dry ports of the hinterland. Together with this, I'm particularly proud of also the LNG bunker vessel that we have developed together with the shipyard, a local shipyard with local know-how and capacity, because this, in a sort of way, is connecting the past of Venice, which has been a powerful country and a powerful institution over the sea throughout centuries, and a massive and state-of-the-art shipyard in the past, with the future. So we are developing now this LNG bunkering vessel, which will be state-of-the-art technology and which will serve the aim of developing and distributing LNG not just in our ports but also across the northern Adriatic basin, until all our partners throughout the whole basin will be able to have their own LNG facility. And particularly within TalkNET, we have done some significant steps. We have upgraded the railway information system of our shunting operation, the so-called SIMA system, which in Porto Marghera has helped in developing better rail accessibility and in addressing the increase in the demand of rail traffic. Our numbers have increased dramatically in a couple of years. We have increased year-on-year basis above 14% each year, and we are now totaling more than 100,000 cars or wagons per year on average of railway connectivity transport. This has helped us in shifting traffic to the rail rather than on the roads, with an obvious increase in or improvement in urban mobility and in decreasing, of course, our GHG emissions. And then, of course, we have worked on the conceptual study and aiming at the realization of a new logistic area within the Monte Cindial area. Monte Cindial will be the new container terminal and logistic area of the ports of the future, which will be, of course, 100% sustainable and innovative in its development. And then 2 charging stations for electric vehicles exactly right behind my back in the parking lot of the Port Authority. A small but significant improvement, because now quite a lot of workers can come to work with electric vehicles and having the possibility to have them charge. And then, of course, the market study for a new rail shuttle service between the Port of Venice and the Verona Freight Village. Again, there must be a very realistic approach to sustainability. I do believe that the frugal innovation, or the marginal innovation so-called, is what is helping us in achieving the big picture. It's not the breakthrough technology which may eventually come that will help in building sustainable transportation. It will be small little improvements all along the chain that will make the difference between the actual situation and the very ambitious goals set for 2050 by all the institutions, particularly the European institution. We have to take into account this as a final remark. Transport has been always the Cinderella of funding in Europe, but it's the backbone of our trades and the backbone of our connectivity within the continent and the Union, and with the Union, with the rest of the markets and the rest of the world. So we need more funding and more projects like TalkNET in the next future. We need more holistic approach in order to understand that there won't be a sustainable European connectivity without funding all the chains or all the rings of the chain, from the seaborne transport to the port activities, to the connectivity, the dry villages, the hinterland connections, and so on and so forth. So we need to work with this, and our European institutions need to understand that what has been done was significant, but in the future we need to work even better and in a smarter and wiser way, cooperating and strengthening our cooperation. Again, thank you so much for the journey. It's been great. We learned quite a lot with you, and let's work together for the next period in order to build a sustainable, smart, and seamless European transport network. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks once again to Mr. Pino Musolino for this quick speech, but very precise about what TalkNET has developed along the years. And indeed, let me highlight a couple of points of his speech. First of all is the pragmatic approach of TalkNET. I mean that many projects funded by territorial cooperation projects remain at the policy level. And they are not able to really test what they think. And I think that the main mistake is that is based on the composition of the consortium. So the advantage of a project like TalkNET is that in the same partnership, you have key nodes of the area, and on the other side, private actors. So a typical mistake is that public bodies think that they can elaborate policies without involving private players. So at the end, the private players say, okay, I cannot implement this kind of policies. But there's also a mistake from the private players that they test for themselves what they are doing, and there is no real deployment on transferability of the results. I think that Mr. Musolino really touched that point, saying that this mix of private and public players created a successful, let's say, a successful reality and a successful consortium. Another very important point touched by Mr. Musolino was that we need to act as leader in the sustainability framework. And I would say that all the partners of this project act as leader. Let me mention all of them, because actually I think that it's important to mention really all the partners that cooperate along these years. Well, starting from, as I mentioned before, the North Adriatic Seaport Authority, which has an experience on the framework of the management of EU projects longer than 10 years. Port Network Authority of the Eastern Adriatic Sea, Veneto Strade, Consortio Zilog, Luca Koper, Port of Rijeka Authority, Recargo Hungary, Freeport of Budapest, Public Ports, West Pomerania Region, Szczecin Seaports Authority, Regional Development Agency of Usti Region, Locomotion, Italian Chamber of Commerce, Italian-Germany Chamber of Commerce, and Codognoto Poland. Well, there's the final remark from Mr. Musolino. I think it's an asset for our next speaker, which is Luca Ferrarese, the head of Secretariat of Interreg Central Europe. So, as we mentioned, the project has been funded by the Central Europe program, and actually I think that Mr. Ferrarese is perfectly the right person to answer to the final point touched. Mr. Musolino precisely said, we are Transport Logistics are the Cinderella. We received two less funds. So I will give the floor to Mr. Ferrarese to have an overview of this amazing program, which is not just focused on transport and logistics, but has different topics. And then I will ask to him to clearly reply to Mr. Musolino. So please, Luca, the floor is yours.
So, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here today, even if not in person, but virtually. But still, it's a pleasure and honor to me here. And yeah, of course, I will do my best to reply to the President Musolino. Anyway, I want also to remind you that as you might know, or some of you might know, in the last 2 years, we had quite a discussion with various stakeholders, namely the Commission, whether the Central Europe program should continue or not. And we always presented Central Europe program like a bridge merging the north with the south and the east with the west of Europe. And among others, we also brought the example of TalkNET as a best example that shows in practice what the territories and the regions are doing in order to connect in between this huge area, which is Central Europe. And that's why for me and for the program, TalkNET is anyway to be considered as an example of what transnational cooperation can do for improving the life of citizens in Central Europe. With my very short speech, I want to mention and to present you a little bit what will be the future and what will be the future funding of this of the Central Europe program. We are now in the middle of the preparation of the new program, which will run from 2021 to 2027. We defined already a skeleton for the new program, which will be organized in 4 program priorities and 9 program-specific objectives. So basically, we will have a priority 1 dealing with innovation, where we will address innovation capacities, but also entrepreneurship. On priority 2, we will be dealing with green aspects, and therefore we will address energy, we will address climate change, circular economy, we will address also protection of the cultural heritage, and importantly for you, we will address under this priority also the greening of urban mobility and with a specific focus in local and regional mobility and multimodality. We have then a priority 3, which will be on transport. So this is the priority which is very much the continuation of what is the priority under which TalkNET was funded. Under this priority, we will be addressing various topics like connecting regions to the corridors, but also organizing multimodality across corridors. And this will be very much a challenge, but also an opportunity to coordinate this priority with the other funding instruments available from the European Union. And then we will have a new 4th priority, which will be kind of an experimental priority, where we will address, let's say, integrated territorial governance and development in regions. In this priority, we will be addressing like the approach and the need to coordinate various stakeholders in the same territories or similar territories between them along various aspects, but horizontally. So it will be a little bit experimental, but I believe that also in this priority, there will be the opportunity for the players of the transport sector to find funding opportunities. This is just a structure. This is just a skeleton. We have now to fill in this skeleton with substance, with life. That's why we launched in June, a wide partner or stakeholder consultation process in which we wanted to collect inputs on actions, on target groups, on topics that can be addressed within this skeleton. And we launched a survey, which was concluded still in June. We got quite a good answer rate to this survey. We got something like more than 550 answers to this survey. And I have to say that a good share of them was coming from Italy, and then there was Austria, Germany, Poland, and other countries. And on the basis of this survey, we got some indications and directions, both on which are the program-specific objectives which are most important for the stakeholders, but also already examples of actions. This survey then kicked off what we called national partner dialogues, meaning in each of the 9 countries participating in Central Europe, we had and we are having still rounds of discussion and exchanges between stakeholders in order to, again, propose actions, propose inputs on how to design the new program. This is still going on, and it will finish in July, end of July. On this basis, we will then start the actual drafting of the program. The program will be prepared until December of this year. And then in January 2021, we plan to submit the program to the authorities who have to approve it, namely the member states, the 9 member states which are participating in the program, and then the European Commission. This is, let's say, a complex process, this approval process, but still we are optimistic and we would love to have the program adopted by the European Commission in June 2021. But we want also territories and regions to start working even earlier. That's why, at least in our wish, we would like to have a let's say a preview of the first call for proposals already in spring 2021. We will not be able to open the call actually because we need the program adopted in order to open the call. But still, we want to publish the terms of reference for the new call in order that regions and partnerships can start working. So that as soon as the, the program is approved, we can officially launch the call, and then we can soon close the call in order to have already the first projects approved, let's say within the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022, the latest. So this is our somehow ambitious plan. We want to be very quick in offering funding opportunities to the regions. And of course, we need to finalize this process, which is still very much depending from other factors. Many of those are also linked to the budget availability of the program. And that's why I must tell you that especially the priority, which I mentioned before, which is the priority transport, is not yet confirmed. It will very much depend, it will really very much depend on the budget which will be then available for the program. But probably also Mrs. Zuccon will then tell you more after me. I would say this is it from my side, and I have to also apologize with you because unfortunately I have to go to another meeting after my speech, but my colleague Flavia Zuccon will be able to answer also to all questions related to the program preparation and the program structure. So I thank you very much for your invitation, and I'm very much proud of having this project approved and this project successfully implemented in Central Europe to contribute to bridging regions across this big and wonderful area. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Luca. I don't know if we have still time for a very brief question to you. It's just to say that you basically gave us a very good news, a very good description about the program, but on the other side you said that it's not confirmed 100%. So I think that also for private companies, that's a very strategic area. If I think about Gruber Logistics, my company, we have something like 40 branches spread in 15 countries, but I would say that 60% are exactly in the Central Europe area. So this is just an example to say that the area for the transport logistics is really, really important. So what we could do, public players, private players, in order to support the fact that we will be sure that the Central Europe program will have a specific topic focused on transport and logistics.
I think you have to make your voice heard. It's important that you present to your national authorities in all Central Europe countries how important is transport, because then, especially when it will be the time to discuss or to propose the budget of the programs, member states will have also some discretionality to allocate funds to one program or another program. And in this point, it would be important that you make clear that transport for Central Europe is an important topic. If this is the case, then we will have enough budget. Therefore, I believe that our member states are keen in having transport on board. As so far, the discussions that took place were more transport yes or transport no, simply because we cannot do everything. And on the other hand, we need to have enough budget in order to do something meaningful. Otherwise, with little budget, you cannot do really something which can leave a sign. But yeah, make your voice heard. And anyway, I can tell you that member states are in favor of the transport topic. It's just about to see how the framework will be and the financial framework will be for the future.
Thanks for the suggestion. We will make our voice heard, that's for sure. So thanks, Luca, once again to be with us. Well, we will follow your indication, and certainly great ideas, we will jump to the next programming period. So we mentioned several times the role of institutions in this kind of processes, and actually we are in the Port of Venice, and the main important local institution, I would say, it's the region. So we have been really lucky to reach Anna Flavia Zuccon, which is the Director of European Territorial Cooperation and Macro Strategies in the Veneto region. Well, Flavia, Luca has already let's say, push you with some topics, saying maybe Flavia could reply to it in a better way, and so on. So we'll leave the floor to you to explain a little bit better the role of Veneto region in this kind of projects, as well as the role of the direction that you are representing right now. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you a lot also from my side for this invitation and for organizing this final event in a virtual Venice. But anyway, in Venice, you know that I represent the Veneto regional government. So Venice is my city, my town, my office place, and I'm really pleasant to guest you, even if in a virtual way today. Mr. Ferrarese said before that we are colleagues. The role of Veneto region in Central Europe program is to represent all the other Italian regions which are eligible in Central Europe program area. I mean the northern part of Italy, from Liguria to Friuli Venezia Giulia, including Regione Emilia-Romagna. But also Veneto region guests the national contact point for Central Europe program. Maybe you know that in each partner state of Central Europe program, there is a contact point, which is an antenna of the JS, of the Joint Secretariat. And this means that each national territory is helped and guided by an antenna in local way, which represent anyway the JS. So we are colleague of Mr. Ferrarese, even if we are in Venice, and he is, of course, working in Vienna, where he is the managing authority of this program. I thanks also the Ferrarese speech, because he introduced the item of the future. And above all, I wish to underline that it is true. We are thinking on the future and on the next 5 policy objective proposed by the European Commission with the new regulation for cohesion policy in the period 2000, 2001, 2000, 2007. And we are speaking with the other member states of the program about 4 axes and about 4 policy objectives. But the policy objective 3, which is devoted to transport and mobility, is supported above all from Italy, but also from the other countries. As Luca said, the problem is to concentrate resources. As you know, the European Commission asked to the countries and to the programs to choose only 3 policy objective and to concentrate the resources, the financial resources on that. I think that we can support as Italy this choice, and we already done in our national partner dialogue. We organized the meetings at the end of June and at the 2nd of July. And in these 2 meetings, we confirmed this policy objective as a challenge for the program and as a challenge for the Italian operators, for Italian public authorities. So we push this choice, and we confirm above all 3 topics. The first one, I think, is the most suitable for a future also of TalkNET project. The topic is regional multimodal demand responsive sustainable transport. And in this topic, I find keywords that are suitable also for current TalkNET project. Because you, as Musolino said at the beginning of this meeting, you put in practice eco-solution and environmental friendly multi-mobility, pilot action, and also training. So these are keywords that we find absolutely in the next topic and in the next policy objective for transport and mobility. Other topics chosen by the Italian stakeholder are improved digital accessibility for remote and rural areas and integrated regional mobility approaches. So I think that all the actors of the current TalkNET project have chance to make new proposals and to reinforce partnership also for the next Central Europe program using this experience. So my final suggestion for you is in the conclusion, not to forget or leave in a box under your desk office this experience and the concrete result of TalkNET project. We remembered that TalkNET is a project coming from the past. The port authorities of the northern eastern part of Italy with Poland, Germany, Czech Republic, and this important part of Central Europe towards Baltic, worked a lot also in the past Central Europe programs by Sonora project, for example, by Cassette, and so you have a good past experience, a perfect current experience to do your best also for future proposal and partnership. So don't leave TalkNet in a drawer, in a box of your office, but go forward and help us also as national and regional authorities to use Interreg for transport also in the next programming period. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much to Flavia. Well, we know each other since a very long time, so we will keep always in mind the suggestions. So I think that the main important element about this speech is do not forget about the past, but think about the future. So thinking about the future is what we will certainly do in the next period of time. We would love to show to you a small video in order to fix the elements that has driven the project along the years. So let's see a very small video about Open Project.
Freight transport today is easier than in the past. Doing it in a sustainable way is the challenge of tomorrow. Multimodal transport has increased the number of players involved, resulting in growing complexity. Innovation and environmental sustainability have to be considered as part of the game. Cooperation is the most important move to do if we want to win this team play. This is why we created TalkNET, a project that aims at making the collaboration in Central Europe easier. A consortium of 15 partners coming from 8 countries. 11 pilot actions focused on the improvement of intermodal services and innovative solutions for the environment. Our goal? Optimizing intermodal services and promoting deployment of eco-innovative solutions. TalkNET, working together for a shared goal.
So it's time for our keynote speech. Our next speaker is Michele Acciaro, which is based in Hamburg, and is Associate Professor of Maritime Logistics and Director of Hapag-Lloyd Center for Shipping and Global Logistics. We spoke together with Michele in order to prepare this speech. I think that it will be an amazing opportunity for us in order to understand what is going to come in our world. So I'm not losing time, so I leave directly the floor to Michele for his speech. The floor is yours. Okay, well, there's an issue. There's an issue about a voice. So let's wait 30 seconds if we can solve the matter. Well, just I will exploit the time to introduce to you a little bit more. In the meantime, that we solve the matters. Actually, the focus of the speech is based on the maritime, since the ports are definitely the door of the freights coming to Europe. It's also true that in Europe you have a lot of goods, commodities directly produced in the continent and transferred in the area. It's typical, really typical from the Central Europe area, in which you have countries which in the last decades has considerably grown in terms of production. But it's definitely true that the ports are still a very, very important element of the logistic chain. So, Michele, let's try once again if everything is fine.
I hope you can hear me now.
Great. Right now we can hear you. So as said, I will not lose more time. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you very much. So hello from Hamburg. It is unfortunate that I don't have the possibility of visiting you in Venice, but of course this is the way we are working these days in a COVID environment. But it gives us also the possibility of spanning more distances and maybe also meeting virtually more people, which maybe would not have been possible. So I would like to thank, of course, the consortium and especially the Port of Venice for inviting me to give this speech as part of this very interesting project. I try to follow what happens in the Interreg projects, and because they're always a very interesting source of new ideas, and of course focusing on sustainability as one of my main areas of interest of research. I think the TalkNET project offers a lot of very interesting perspectives. So thanks a lot for the invitation. I was asked to discuss or give some perspectives on sustainable global supply chains with a focus on Europe and on the future, and trying to look at some of the points and the advancements, the challenges that we have, and also the upcoming importance of policy action. And if we would like, if you could see from directly the first slide I have put in my presentation, you can see that I have tried to summarize the overview of the complexity of turning global supply chains in sustainable into a picture of the Port of Hamburg, which is my home port where I am located, and I can see part of it from my window. And you can see in this picture that we have a combination of intermodal activities. We have a railway, which, as you know, for Hamburg is very critical. We have, of course, the container terminal in the back. We can see the cranes, and we can see also, of course, the windmills, both very closely located in the terminal and also later on. And I think a lot of those developments are also the results of projects similar to the TalkNET and other projects that have allowed us also to advance from theoretical concepts into more practical and business-oriented perspectives. Of course, sustainability has been a very pervasive word. It's something that has been discussed and not always is seen in a positive light. I would like to illustrate this using a simple example. Many people consider sustainability as a way to stop progress, to go back to the old world. So to illustrate with you again an image from the Port of Hamburg that I have here in front is the vessel, the Rickmers. That was one of the vessels built in 1887, was one of the very strong vessels, a windjammer ship for the time. This vessel was also equipped, it was a fully rigged vessel, but was also equipped with a steam engine. And for me, that represents a little bit the transition from the old world of sails to the modern world of new engines. And of course, the idea is not that we have to go back to this older world, which has, of course, a lot of limitations, and the modern achievements of the modern world would not be possible. But try to think in different perspective. And I put here next to it a new model. This is a ship built in 2020, the Ship 1, which, as you can clearly see, has the flattener rotors and is a vessel that combines a sustainable future, a perspective of sustainable future. And similarly, when we're talking about road transportation, of course, we don't want to go back to horse cart, which of course would impose enormous limitations on our trade, but we want maybe to look at the future. And I put here an example of the E-Force 26 new electric vehicles that are available. So we have to look and embrace sustainability not as a way to limit our progress and to go to the past, but really something that allows us maybe to explore new alternatives and allows us to change our behavior without maybe sacrificing what we have achieved. And especially in the case of transportation, as transport is so critical for our well-being, we have to pay particular attention to innovation and to making sure that sustainability is embedded in the way that we are operating. And transport is very critical, obviously, not only because it's a backbone of moving transportation, but also because it's a fundamental at the basis of a lot of our economic activity. You can see here, when it comes down to maritime transport, which is really my area of expertise, that this is very critical, both in terms of employment within the EU, as well as in terms of GDP. And something very similar can be said also for ports. We have 1,200 ports, about 320 of them which are part of our TEN-T network, and 3.6 billion tons of cargo transit through these ports. They are very relevant for Europe's external trade, with 74% of Europe's external trade transiting through our ports. And also are very critical as part of the TEN-T network, which has allowed already, or could allow already by 2030 to save 10 billion euros. Of course, short sea shipping plays a very critical role into this as well. And I don't dedicate a lot of attention at the moment on passengers, but are of course very important with 410 million passengers transiting through European ports. And of course, jobs also in this case very important, 2,200 port operators, which employ 110,000 port workers. And indirectly, that reaches up to 3 million jobs in all the 22 maritime member states. When we look at transportation in the broader sense, of course, the amount of cargo that has been moved is even more. We have almost 2 trillion ton-kilometer freight that goes by road. So that's still very, very important, and about 3/4 of what goes through the EU in total. And transportation is a major industrial sector. So I am always surprised when we observe sometimes that in policy, this is still seen a little bit as an accessory sector. Transportation is part of services, and as Europe moves more and more towards a service economy, this has to be given a very, very important role. Unfortunately, some of the aspects associated with transport are also not so positive, because transport is also accounting for about 1/4 of the EU's greenhouse gas emissions. And if we want to achieve the goals that we have set to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, we will need to reduce transport emission by 90%. And how to do this without sacrificing the very important economic positive impacts which are associated with transport. 1.1 million enterprises, this includes, of course, also passenger transport, 10 million people employed, and 480 billion value added. So extremely important figures for the transportation sector that should not be neglected. Now, of course, also very important in this perspective is the importance of trade in our economy. We, of course, always should be reminded that the EU is the largest trading bloc, and that is contributed to the developments and the economic growth within all the countries within the Union. And of course, Europe is also extremely well connected with the rest of the world. We cannot sacrifice our interconnectedness, and we cannot sacrifice the benefits of globalization. They are so fundamental for the well-being of Europe. Just as an example, we have over 100 countries which have specific, for which Europe is the largest import markets. And also Europe foreign trade account for about 30% of the EU GDP, so an enormous amount. So how can we actually develop sustainable transportation in a way that we are not sacrificing our place in the global economy, and we are not sacrificing globalization? And on top of this, of course, we have to consider the difficulties which have emerged as of the COVID-19. You see here the EU27 merchandise trades with third countries, and you can see that with comparison to 2018 and 2019, there is a huge decrease in the last few months as a result, of course, of the contraction of the COVID crisis. So the COVID-19 crisis has shown us that we live in an extremely interconnected world. And of course, we have to consider that any action or any activities that limits our possibility to take advantage of this interconnectedness is bound to have problems on our economies. And of course, how do we actually do this? That's a very big challenge, I think, and that's one of the challenges that we will be facing in the future. We have, of course, had a huge momentum towards sustainability. This is an image I took myself during a protest in Rome. We had a huge momentum in 2019, and I think it is very sad that this momentum has somewhat been lost as a result of the COVID-19. The COVID-19, of course, is a huge limitation and a huge challenge, but has not changed the challenges in which the planet is staying, and we are. If you consider, for example, that in April, emissions of CO2 were down to 17% of the daily levels of the year before, but only now, where we are not completely out of the crisis, emissions have only been reduced to 5% of our daily emissions. So the limitations that we have on the environment are still very real. And this graph on the planetary boundaries has not changed, unfortunately. We have here a representation of the boundaries that we have. And of course, the most urgent are those related to biodiversity loss and the nitrogen and phosphorus cycles. And of course, climate change on top is becoming still an enormous limitations in our possibilities of development. So how can we do that, especially in the face of the COVID-19 crisis? Well, I had hoped when large recovery plans were announced that a lot of emphasis would be given to sustainability. Unfortunately, this has happened only to a limited extent. It's true on the one side that France, for example, has dedicated 13 billion to a green recovery, Germany 35 billion, and within the European Union, we have 750 billion for the next generation EU on the recovery fund, which should include also investments into sustainable activities. But unfortunately, transport features in this area, but not as prominently as we would have wanted it to be. And we see also on the other side that many countries have been resorting to support their legacy industries, specifically fossil fuel companies or fossil fuel-based industries, without attaching any constraints or any sustainability requirements on their developments. Just as an example, within the G20, we have $150 billion dedicated to fossil fuel companies, and only about $90 billion, which were dedicated to green energy. So quite a lot of things that still need to be done, and a very big challenge ahead of us. Just important to consider is that global supply chains do not happen by themselves. That's why I put here a little bit, maybe in a controversial way, that sustainable global supply chains are an oxymoron. What do we mean by this? Is that the driver of global supply chains is not sustainability. The driver of global supply chains is efficiency and customer value. If we believe that we can pull in sustainability within this automatically, we are actually up for a big disappointment. Because economic forces in the absence of regulation, and if customers are not sensitive enough to sustainability, will ignore a lot of sustainability concerns. This is what markets are supposed to do, and I think they do this very well. But we have to consider so that when we talk about sustainability, we have definitely a part of sustainability that might maybe be driven by customer value, but that might be driven by the desire to develop new business model, might be driven by efficiency or by a long-term vision. And this is what I would call not sustainability, but good business practice. If you are doing what your customers want, if you are efficient, if you are saving money by becoming more sustainable, this is not an ethical it's not ethically driven business, it's simply good business practice. There is another large component, though, of what constitutes sustainability that links to externalities, links to the future generations and the well-being of future generation, links also, of course, to equality at a global level, links to the planetary boundaries. And unfortunately, a large number of those problems require regulation. And I'm very happy to see that, of course, a project such as the TalkNET projects have already advanced a lot on this low-hanging, what Mr. Musolino said, the low-hanging fruits. This is what I'm mentioning here as the good business sense. And in the case of transport, ports, and hinterland, the good business practice entails optimization, advancing and taking advantage of the techniques that we have today, improving for example, the loads on railways and cooperation, the developments of multimodality, the taking advantage of the opportunities offered by improved cross-border connectivities and reducing emissions of long-distance transport, and of course also the uptake of digital technologies, which is a very hot topic these days. But this alone is not sufficient to the very large challenges that the transportation sector, or in general the economy, are going to face in the future. There is a necessity for regulation because the challenge is such that the private sector alone cannot do what it's needed to be done. And all sectors of the economies will need to decarbonize by 2050. Pollution is enormous issues in many cities in Europe, and we have still a rampant biodiversity and environmental degradation. And on top of this, of course, we have the human factor with growing unemployment, demographic change, migration, labor force exploitation, still a very important topic also in the transportation sector. And of course, the need to reconvert and retrain qualified staff and the search for new jobs in this area. And of course, on top of this, as a cherry on a very, very unpleasant cake, we have, of course, the COVID-19 challenge that also requires a lot of attention. Now, the European Green Deal has the ambition to do this. The objective here is to decouple growth from resource use. In the transportation sector, specifically the maritime sector, the objectives are very ambitious. Apart from fisheries, which is a bit marginal to this discussion, but very important is, of course, regulation on pollution and the use, probably mandatory use of onshore power supply in ports. On the other side, also the introduction of the of maritime transport in the EU emission trading schemes. When it comes down to multimodal transport, we also have, this is giving a lot of importance with some of the traditional objectives of improving modal shift and facilitating a shift to rail and inland waterways. This can be done also through revising the Combined Transport Directive and also giving a lot of emphasis to automation and allowing intermodal transport to connect through smart systems, looking at mobility as a service, although that's more relevant for passengers. Of course, an important topic also mentioned in the European Green Deal is the price for transport, which means the end of fossil fuels, including also extending the reach of the emission trading system, and most likely also the development of the road pricing with a revision of the Eurovignette Directive, which will need to be adapted and eventually adopted also within the European countries. And on top of that, of course, we have electrification and alternative fuels, which is, I know, a very important topic also for the TalkNET project. And of course, very important in here, and I think the TalkNET project is a good example of that, is also fostering research and innovation. Innovation is very critical for adapting sustainability and turning transport into a sustainable transport. Many big problems in here are the lack of capital, uncertainty, the need to develop or allow market forces to do their job properly, and of course also develop regulation that can aid the uptake of new innovative technologies. As a very quick example here, you see alternative fuels and the policy instruments. You see the complexity of actually developing and making such radical changes, from incorrect price signals to the presence of split incentives, poor infrastructure, and what we call interdependence with other modes of transport. These are all issues that needs to be addressed altogether into a policy, together often also with the private sector. So to conclude, I want to mention that global supply chains are far from sustainable, and they will not automatically become sustainable if there is not a concerted, sustained effort from civil society, from the private sector, and from regulators. Radical change is a necessity today, much more than what has been done at the moment, although enormous steps have been done in the past years, but much more is needed. And sustainability is, in the one sense, good business practice. So we need to take advantage of this when this is possible, but we also need well thought, forward-looking policy, preferably at a supranational level. COVID-19 should not be the stopper to the good developments, the good projects that we have in the past, because those problems have not gone away and actually have become more serious. So I would like to thank you, and I think we have maybe 1 minute for a Q&A. And of course, you're more than welcome to reach me. And if you visit Hamburg, please feel free to drop by the Kuehne Logistics University.
Thank you very much, Michele. I will have a lot of questions, but unfortunately we ran out of time, so I cannot. But definitely I will pose all the questions in Hamburg with a beer, and we will have time to discuss a lot of different things. So the next part of this event is more interactive. We call it fireside chat. It means that it will be very informal, a discussion about the speakers that will be present in the next part. So there will be 2 different moderators, but you will have also the opportunity to pose some questions to them. So you can write your questions on the address that you can see right now. So please keep note of it, and during the speeches, you will have the opportunity to pose some questions, and we will select 1 or 2 questions, since, as I said, the time is very short and on our disposal. So we will have 2 fireside chats based on the main important topics of the project. So eco-innovation from one side and intermodality from the other side. I will leave the floor to the first moderator, which is Guido Piccoli, advisor of TalkNET Poland, a partner that gave great value to the project. Guido is the CEO of Alot, a company with a terrific experience in eco-innovation. So I think that he's definitely the best person to lead the next group. So I will leave the floor to you as well as the moderation of the fireside chat. So please, Guido, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Adrian. We'll also skip the question if you have a beer for me as well. So that will be a nice approach. So I'm very pleased to be here, excited, like Codognoto Poland was excited, interested, motivated partner of TalkNET as a branch office of the Codognoto Group, which is a global logistic provider, which is developing tailored logistic solution for the clients. And when we're talking about tailor, is this vision where we try to develop a solution, but not only in transport, means the transport solution. We're talking about 500,000 of transport developed by Codognoto worldwide per year, having a proper structure, 1,000 employees, 40 branch office among Italy, Europe, Middle Asia, India, but also investing a lot of innovation in terms of sustainability as a main challenge. When we're talking about investing in innovation, means ICT investment, new solutions, addressing sustainability as was described. So not only environmental and social innovation and sustainability, but with a really key vision also on economic sustainability for the customer and the supply chain empowerment. When we're talking about sustainability, we know that we have many pillars or many challenges to address, which are, in general, CO2 emission or other pollution reductions, energy consumption to reduce more efficient. Therefore, we have a transport solution. Intermodal will be one issue. We will talk later. ICT cooperation, which means reduction of empty transport, increasing of load factor in order to have a more sustainable transport solution. That is really key point. But then the energy issues. So LNG, alternative fuel trucks, e-trucks. So every kind of transport solution which can be also reduce the energy consumption or using a more sustainable energy alternatives. So summarizing what is the vision of Codognoto, which is really interesting and challenging in this way. But then coming back to the first point, the tailored solution to the customer. That is really nice for me because we have the opportunity to introduce two of our key customers, key accounts, Bortolo and Unilever. And it's really interesting in this opportunity of today, in this session, to see and to present two different visions. One, Italian company, leader in the production sector of building, which has a large market at international level. And on the other side, obviously, Unilever, the third production consumer goods provider worldwide. So we have two different levels of approach, but still addressing both sustainability. And that is really tricky for me because then we have two opportunities to see in a different way this kind of challenge. So first of all, going to this point, I will introduce then Manuel Artuso from Bortolo. He's an economist, so that is also a really important point because the vision on sustainability and economical sustainability is really a pillar. He's in the direction of operation, so logistic department, and he's a specialist particularly on the vendors management, so in the logistic supplier management. So I will ask if he's on the line, Manuel.
Good morning, everybody.
To start your intervention. Thank you very much, first of all, to accept our invitation. And just give me a short description of Bortolo, and particularly how you address what is your vision on sustainability.
Sorry for my English, and I prefer to explain in Italian, and Mr. Piccolo will translate everybody for the people. Bortolo è un'importante azienda del mondo dell'edilizia che da anni si è affermata nel mercato nazionale e internazionale. Ha sempre posto l'attenzione alle materie prime, alla ricerca e all'innovazione nel rispetto ambientale, una visione importante per lo sviluppo e per essere all'avanguardia con l'evoluzione che l'edilizia richiede. Fassabortolo produce intonaci, pitture, tutto quello che è pertinente al mondo dell'edilizia, passando per il comparto del cartongesso e della bioarchitettura.
Fassabortolo started its activities as a family company in the 1700s. And one of the most important bases was the use of lime. Lime, which is the natural element which was indispensable for all the productive processes in the company. It has 16 production plants in Italy. It has one production plant in Portugal near Fatima and another one in Spain. In addition to this, from mid-2021, we will also have a production plant in Brazil, in Belo Horizonte. As regards the issues of efficiency and environmental issues, Fassabortolo has always had a very careful attitude towards these topics and very enthusiastically took part in the ministerial programs for the assessments of environmental impact, which are preliminary assessments made on the impact that construction works can have on the environment and on the well-being of the people who live near these big works. The aim is to reduce the negative impact on the environment and on the quality of people. What do we do in the environmental sector? What does Fassabortolo do in the environmental sector? The important thing is to bring together, on the one hand, commercial needs, if you like, the competitivity of the company, and on the other hand, environmental issues and requirements. The environment is a very important factor that Fassabortolo considers in every step of its processes. And this has led to the clear intention of the ownership to invest in order to eliminate the impacts of the CO2 emissions and to make sure that it implements the Kyoto protocols. For a start, the conversion of older production plants that no longer use fossil fuels, and also the use of wood products, which can lead up to a 21% less emissions compared to the use of methane, which we traditionally use in our production plants. Some of our plants are indeed authorized to use fossil fuels. Nevertheless, we have always preferred to convert the systems implemented in order to be environmentally friendly. As to the different effects of the production processes, in addition to production per se of the products which are then destined to the national and international markets, another very important issue is associated to the logistics supply chain. If we think of domestic deliveries where we necessarily have to use road haulage, because we are usually talking of dedicated transport services, and think, for example, of the silos which are used to erect constructions, Fassa Bortolo is trying to implement intermodal solutions or ship-based solutions for international transport in order to reduce as much as possible the environmental impact of the emissions generated by road haulage. At the same time, its intention is to ensure that most of the traffic used is off-road. As a result, if you like, there's a double thrust in our company. On the one hand, to try and satisfy our commercial needs and face the greater volumes required and requested by our clients, and on the other hand, environmental issues. So we try to reduce the emissions for the same amount of cargo transported. What do we expect for the future? In the future, we want to or would like to establish a closer partnership with the suppliers that's also focus on of innovation, if you like, or more efficient fleets that use alternative fuels, and suppliers that suggest services and propose services that enable us to reduce as much as possible the impact of the emissions into the environment. So this is, if you like, the vision of our company.
I had a list of questions for you, but you fulfill every kind of curiosity because you went through, you know, the more strategic vision level and then the technical operational. And actually, I wanted to ask you something about the cooperation with the vendors and the operators, but again, you fulfill also this one. Well, time-wise was good, but yeah, but I have just one question, if you have still time. You mentioned the cooperation with operators, what you are asking for, what you're looking for in terms of logistic provider. It's clear. I mean, ICT cooperation, sustainable solutions, alternative fuel vehicles, that's fine. But what is the answer from the market? I mean, your suppliers are capable to, is the market mature enough to follow your ideas, your visions? Because you are quite demanding in this way. I mean, it's not only a question of price, but it's really a question of standard that I suppose you want to apply for an overall picture of your company for the entire supply chain, I think. So what is really, are the supplier able to, are they mature, or how to guide them to these kind of solutions?
It's a big challenge for everybody because the FASA looking forward to give a direct level service to our customer, to give our best product in the short time. The challenge with the supplier, with the transport and logistic supplier is to give the right time and the right way to sell the goods and to deliver the goods on the delivery place. The building construction market is crazy in the last period. So it's very important to deliver all the goods on time. In the past, we can spend 1-2 days more to deliver the goods. Now, all the goods is urgent, or the goods must be on the construction side on the time. The just-in-time is also in the construction market. So it's important to have a cooperation with different suppliers to get these topics. So this important point to have the best service, and but best service must be matched with the economics and ecological sustainability system. And for this sign, we are working to improve our cooperation with the intermodal and supplier to get the right way for our customers.
Picture was again clear. I think again talking about sustainability and economical pillar, I think it's always the starting point we have to achieve, starting from the basic of logistics, right time, right good, and the right place. So there is no other way, other.
Right price.
Yeah, definitely. So once more, thank you very much to you, Manuel, to Fassa Bortolo for your contribution. And now I will shift to Ashish Yoshi from Unilever. He's a global supply chain director and B2B and B2B2BC e-commerce in Unilever responsible. He has a really extended experience, 16 years in the logistics supply chain sector. He joined Unilever in 2006. He was working a lot on logistic strategy. That's, I think, a really tricky, interesting point, because it's not only how to deliver goods, but how to develop a proper chain of, deliverables and suppliers. And from 2020, he's taking part as a director on this responsibility. And so, Yoshi, Ashish, sorry. I would like to ask you also as well, if you can start with the introduction about Unilever, which is a known brand, obviously. Third one, goods, consumer goods company worldwide. So it's really a large vision how sustainability can be applied on this world. So I leave the floor to you. Thank you very much.
Buongiorno, hola, hello everyone. Thank you, Gideon, and thanks to TalkNET for this opportunity. I'm really looking forward to. I did enjoy the talks of the previous speakers, and I'm looking forward to share a few things from our side, which probably will be useful for this forum to think and take forward. As you already know about Unilever, I hope Unilever has been in the business for more than 100 years now, and been in Italy, especially in Italy, we have a significantly big business. Now is the summer season, so I hope all of you are enjoying at least one of our ice cream brands, Magnum, Ben & Jerry's, or Lusso. I know Italian people love gelato, so probably we don't have a gelato brand yet, but our ice creams are also good. So I hope all of you are enjoying it. I have a small presentation. I will just quickly talk it through. I don't intend to take you through all the slides because of the time. At Unilever, actually, sustainability is not a good thing to do. It is the core of our business. We have defined sustainability in the purpose of our company. Our purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace. And this purpose has been in place for the last 10 years. Even before that, since the beginning of this company, it was always to look at making life better for people in a sustainable way. So sustainability for us is as much central strategy for the business than anything else. So that's where everything starts. It's at the center of the business. Some of you might have already heard about our recent announcements on the climate pledge. We had already had a 2030 target with us. Now we have extended our climate pledge to getting to a net zero emissions as an organization by 2039. And we are talking about all the emissions from the sourcing of raw material to the sale, to the point of sale. So not just our factories, not just our warehouses, it is end-to-end supply chain that we are holding ourselves accountable for. We are also looking at deforestation-free supply chain in the next 3 years. And then there is a lot of work going around regenerative agriculture. We believe that there's a lot of healing to be done in this world. COVID has given us some opportunity to heal ourselves. We heard some speakers talk about 17% reduction in emissions due to lockdown. And we had some amazing videos. I'm sure all of you have seen the WhatsApp videos. In fact, there was a video from I think somewhere in Italy about dolphins coming very close to the shore. That's the power of the nature. It regenerates itself. So we are looking to now also work with our suppliers on regenerative agriculture. And then there are other commitments around making our product formulations biodegradable, and also look at water stewardship program, because we believe not just the carbon emissions or the greenhouse gas emissions, access to clean water is also going to be even more challenging in the next 10 years. So that's a very, very quick summary of what we are looking at in addition to the greenhouse gas emissions that we want to be net zero. Coming close to logistics, which is where today's discussion is focused on, we have a sustainable logistics program for the next decade. We recently refreshed it in the last 6 months, so this is as as fresh as it could be. So we called out our ambition to be an industry leader and change maker in sustainable logistics. That's the role that we want to play, not just for Unilever but for the industry. There are four pillars of our program, which I would like to quickly talk about. First is zero emissions road transport. Why there is a specific focus on road transport? Because close to 80% of our emissions are on road. So we did recently we did our real baselining of our emissions using the well-to-wheel methodology, and we are approximately 2 million tons of emissions in logistics network, out of which around 80% is on road. The second program is Clean Ocean program. I think a lot of people on this call would relate to it. 8% of our emissions, approximately 8% of our emissions are from ocean transportation, long distance ocean transportation of our imported goods. That's the area which we want to really focus on and um, get out of these emissions by use of cleaner fuels like biodiesel and biofuels. Then there is the third pillar is on war on waste, which is precisely working on plastic and paper. In logistics, there is a lot of paperwork in our warehouses, in our transportation. Some of that paperwork is required as per the law, but there is also some of the paperwork which we could eliminate by use of digital tools. Similarly, we use a lot of plastic in our products, which we are looking to recycle. But at the same time, things like shrink wraps, which are used and sometimes used multiple times in our warehouses and in logistics network, how can we reduce it through alternate solutions? And the fourth piece, which is probably, I would say, quite unique to us, but we are very keen to progress on it. We believe that drivers, truck drivers, and our 3PL staff, though we don't own any trucks, we work completely with our partners, but we believe that we have a responsibility towards them. They are not necessarily the best. They don't necessarily have the best access to having a good life. So we are trying to work with our partners to bring in well-being for the truck drivers and 3PL members. Our ambition is to reach 100,000 people over the next 10 years. So that's a very, very briefly what we are trying to do in overall global logistics sustainability. Coming closer to emissions, as I mentioned, our target is to get to net zero cradle to shelf emissions by 2039. But for this decade, the current decade in which we are in, our objective is to reduce our greenhouse gases by 50%, as we measure it in per ton of sale. So that's something which we are currently looking at. There are three game changers for us, which we believe. One is zero emissions vehicle for long haul transportation, because that's something which is the two-thirds of our emissions. Then there is short haul, which we believe electric vehicles are already available. We need to make the commercial viability and then do it. And the third piece for us is refrigerated transportation, because we have a big ice cream business globally. Close to 20% of our emissions are in the ice cream category, which we want to get to zero. Most important call out is at the bottom, which you see, which is we have called out strategic partnership with OEMs, energy providers, logistics service providers, and retailers as the cornerstone of our strategy. This is something which we have not done very well in the past, which we want to change now. So we believe that partnerships are extremely important in achieving this ambition. We cannot do it alone, and I'll talk a little more about that as we go along. This is just our journey. Over the last 10 years, we have achieved 41% reduction in our carbon footprint, carbon efficiency, as we call it. Most of that, close to 80% of this benefit or reduction has happened because of operational efficiencies. by reducing kilometers on the road, either by network redesign or by improving the utilization of our vehicles. But we have also made some progress from less than 1% of um, non-road transportation or intermodal in 2010 and 11. We reached to 9.6% intermodal usage in 2018. Right now, we are approximately 7%. We have come down a little bit in the last 2 years. And our alternate fuel usage was less than 0.2, 0.5% in 2011. We are currently, last year, we exited with close to 2% of our transportation on alternative fuels, which certainly is a big opportunity for us to improve. This is how we want to go ahead in the future. These are the 6 pillars or 6 buckets in which we are focusing on. First of all, at the top, you see we moved to an externally certified, GLEC certified, industry relevant greenhouse gas emissions measure, well to wheel measure using TK Blue as a tool. And we are generating a new baseline for 2020 on which we will measure our progress for the next 10 years. There are 6 buckets that I talked about. 2 buckets, which we call as operational efficiency, are basically doing our logistics job, um, or I would say overall cost management better, which is decreasing kilometers reduction through network redesign. In this case, we are also incorporating cost of carbon in our network design, and also reducing empty kilometers, because 15% surcharge we currently bear on our emissions because of the empty mileage that we run. Then intermodal solutions, that's a big call out for us. And if you see the number, the bubble below that, we expect that close to 14% of our emissions can be eliminated if we just moved all the lanes that we have currently, which are more than 1,000 kilometers. With Condon Auto and many other suppliers in Europe and North America, we do have intermodal already there, but there is a big scope for us to maximize it further. There are certain concerns around service levels and lead times. If we can sort those out, intermodal solutions can really be a very important part of our plans going forward. Then comes the new part, which is the alternate to diesel, because of course diesel on road is the most polluting fuel that we use. The objective is to move to an alternate. Now there are various alternates available. Again, some of the previous speakers already talked about. I won't focus on it. We believe hydrogen fuel cells and battery electric vehicles are the long-term bet. We already have some hydrogen vehicles shipped into Switzerland last week by Hyundai Mobility, and we are also working with Iveco, Nikola, as well as Tesla to see what is the best way of deploying these vehicles in our networks. But that is something which is going to take time. It is not something which is readily available, commercially viable from day one. So that's a long-term bet which we will work on. But we believe that the role of alternate fuels like bio-LNG, biomethane, um, in the short to medium term is significant, and we certainly want to maximize that opportunity, especially in Europe, where the European Union has always been supporting the initiatives. France, Italy, Benelux, UK are certainly ahead of the game, and we are looking to make a big difference there. Cold chain I already talked about, and then the last piece is last mile logistics, which is becoming more and more important for us as the e-commerce channel is growing. So those are the 6 pillars on which we have based our strategy. I won't again go through the details of each of them. For each of the pillars, we have identified how we will go about making the difference, and that's how we are looking at. Intermodal, as I said, has a big role to play in this operational efficiency program. We also have some very interesting programs which are probably not relevant for the forum here, but it's also about improving the utilization of our vehicles, not just uh, by by um, by just using bigger vehicles, but it's also about how can we pack our products more densely, because we do have in many cases our packaging is not very dense, which leads to a lot of air being transported on our pallets. So there has been this project called Design to Distribute, which has given us a lot of savings in space, in raw material, as well as in carbon emissions. Um, this is certainly a topic which is most relevant for this group. Alternate fuels and zero emission technology. We have a four-step process in which we are going in when we look at this. First, we start with a market scan for all the existing fuel suppliers, OEMs, government grants, incentives, carbon taxes, and carbon fines in a particular market. Based on that study, we we choose a suitable technology. For example, we recently had one study for France, and we believe that biomethane and bio CNG, bio LNG are the alternate fuels that are most useful for France. And then based on that, we then identify who are the right partners and what are the right partnership models that we need to work on. And then finally, we implement those projects in those markets. So that's our approach on alternate fuels, and similarly for zero emission vehicles. I will skip all this. You already know that how each fuel type has a benefit. We have been doing lots of pilots in the last 10 years. Europe has done a lot of pilots. The problem has always been how do we scale up a pilot? That's where we have not done probably the best job, and that's what we want to change. So we did a workshop with our stakeholders. I think Condonoto was also one of the participants in October last year in Rotterdam, and we also invited transporters from all parts of Europe, and we heard what is going wrong and why we are not able to take on the pilots to a scalable stage. The biggest feedback that we got was um, Unilever has a good intention, and we want to make sustainability making it a commonplace. However, when it comes to transport procurement, Unilever still focuses only on cost. That was a very clear feedback that was given to us. Of course, very gently by our transport partners, but we are thankful that we got that feedback. Based on that feedback, we did an introspection within the company, and we realized that we have to make changes in the way we are currently contracting transportation. We cannot go and into a 6 month or a 1 year kind of a auction, and based on that we can't really move the needle on alternate fuels. We have to look at a slightly longer term contracts. We have to also get into the real spirit of partnership, not just by negotiating price, but also look at opportunities for co-investment, co-funding, and then rather than doing it all alone, the role of collaboration is extremely important, industry collaboration. And I think that is one piece which I heard in the previous speakers also talk about. This is our circle of getting into collaborative space. We believe we need emission standards which are acceptable across the globe. So we have GLEC and TK Blue as our emission standards and calculation partners. Industry interaction is important. So Gartner, Dutch Sustainable Growth Coalition, Clean Cargo, Zero Shipping Alliance, and now also TalkNET, I think are the good forums for us to engage. We need fuel market intelligence. So Breakthrough Fuel is one of our partners in North America. And then most importantly, we need to work with fuel providers, OEMs, strategic carriers, and also some of the other shippers to make this a reality. And we also know that some of our competition like Nestle and PNG are also having same intentions on sustainability. And we are also now open to work with them together on sustainability. We will continue to compete on shelf, no doubt about it. That's a very strong competition that we have, but we can cooperate on road. So that's our going in position. Of course, I have some more details around what are we doing on ice creams with Dearman, what we are thinking about doing in the last mile logistics. This is our projects that we have launched. We have launched Diesel Free France project. We are aiming to achieve diesel free transport operation in France over the next 24 months, and then take it to other markets in Europe. Probably Italy would be the next one, followed by Netherlands and UK. So that's something which we certainly want to do. We have shared this plan with most of our suppliers already, and we are also, yesterday only we had a workshop where Carrefour, Iveco, Shell, and 5-6 transport partners from France had participated. Very constructive discussion on how do we make it happen. And as I said, we already identified some of the concerns. So that's where we are. Um, this is my last slide. I think if I had to leave you with some of the thoughts um, which we believe in Unilever. For us, sustainability is not an option. It is not a CSR activity. It is not a good thing to do. it is a must for our survival as a company and as a humankind. So I think that's how we see sustainability. The other thing which is important is we do not see cost and sustainability against each other. I think it is cost and sustainability together. That is the mindset that we need to implement some solutions. Um, we cannot get better results by following the same process or behaving in the same way. We have to change. We have to get into innovative solutions. We have to also change the way we work with our partners. Um, no one can do it alone. We must work together as an industry to achieve this. And as I said, we are open to work with anyone, actually. As I said, even Nestle, PNG as well, with shared vision for the future to make this a reality. So that's it. That's all from my side. Giulio, over to you.
Well, I was already excited by preparing this chat with you, Ashish, and now even more because really, you, I think I was delighted by the vision, the approach, and the methodology. This segmentation and metrics among strategic project, different market and goods, and specific country. So this metrics is also really tricky. I like this approach because it's really effective, and you can start really from strategic approach to really tangible and coherent and sustainable project. That's really, even from the methodology as an expert, I'm really excited. So I have a lot of questions, but I think first of all, Andrea, if you have any from the participants, from the public.
Yeah, well, actually, I think that most of the questions are jumping to us during the presentation. So I will try to sum up what we received, and most of the questions are related to the alternative fuels strategy that you are implementing. You mentioned a lot of different alternative fuels during your presentation, but the real question is, which is the real alternative to the diesel? I mean that there are always always a question related to an alternative fuel. Let's make some example. LNG, yes, but it's still a fossil fuel. Bioenergy, yes, but you cannot think it to a large scale deployment. Biodiesel, yes, but the cost right now, the gap of the cost is increasing. So you mentioned as a main scope zero emission, and we know that there is not right now a real zero emission solutions. So how can you reply to this? Which is in your mind the strategic approach towards alternative fuels?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and this is a challenge that we have been grappling with for last 6 months or so. Because everybody makes big claims, so there are big claims by companies which are producing electric trucks and hydrogen fuel cell trucks, and it is promising. Certainly, it is promising. As I said, hydrogen fuel cell as well as battery electric. If we are using green electricity and green hydrogen to use to ply those trucks, will be the game changer. They are going to give us real close to zero emissions. Probably there will be some more. If you look at the life cycle of the truck itself, there will be some emissions. So it's not going to be like zero emission from cradle to grave of the truck. Um, but we will be very close to zero. So I think that's where we will all finally pivot to over the next 5 to 10 years. But we can't sit and wait for that hydrogen truck to become commercially viable. I'm also part of the fuel cell hydrogen working group, which is focusing on Germany to do some trials. And yesterday we had one working group session where a case study was shared. Even in the best case, the TCO, the total cost of ownership for hydrogen vehicles, is not going to be equal to diesel in the first 2-3 years of launch. The challenge now is that how can we bring that TCO close to diesel at the same time as organizations, as shippers, should be ready to take some additional cost to start to move towards real zero emission alternatives. Scalability will certainly be a big challenge. which we will have to address. So again, it's a chicken and egg story. If we wait for it to become commercially viable, the investment from the OEMs as well as infrastructure providers is going to be slow. If we show commitment and if we say that okay, even if less than 5% of my total requirement can go on to this, which will probably come to me at a slightly additional cost, I can manage that cost by saving somewhere else. But let me support these initiatives. Then we are creating momentum behind such technologies. So that's how I see it. And in the meantime, certainly bio LNG, bio methane, as you said, they are ultimately derived from fossil fuels. Biomethane, or there, it's not necessarily a completely clean fuel, but it is far, far, far better than diesel. So we have to keep moving towards the better alternatives rather than getting or rather than waiting for a perfect solution to come to us at the same cost or cheaper than today. That is that is probably a not a possible scenario. So we need to be open for a cleaner alternative solution and commit ourselves to make that shift over the next 5 to 10 years.
Thanks.
I have a tricky question because I was interested in the point that you're a director also on this department. I don't know whether it's new, but e-commerce. And then I link this word with city logistics, obviously, because we know that in terms of alternative transport mode, I mean, modal shift, city logistics has no alternative. It's just a question of alternative fuel. So the engine we are applying on the vehicles. So, but then you are talking also on cooperation and building with the supply, the logistic provider. But the ecosystem, I would say, where you're dealing with city logistic is including another actor, another sector, which is the public administrations. So I wonder in which way you approach, maybe specifically on some country, this vision on city logistic improvement to reduce CO2 emission also with public administration. That is, I think, considering the cooperation approach of TalkNET is not the secondary aspect. So just your experience on this.
Yeah, I think, again, very challenging scenario there. As consumer, we are more and more attracted towards e-commerce, direct to home deliveries. Especially COVID has accelerated the trend. All of us want now, rather than going to the shops to buy, we want to get deliveries at home. As a consumer, me and my wife order a lot of stuff on many portals. Um, we do believe that trend is going to increase. At the same time, the other reality is that, and I come from India, I've lived in the most populous cities in the world for a long time, so I know what kind of traffic and pollution issues that we face. And it's no longer an Asian or a Latin American problem. That the problem of traffic and pollution has become real. Yeah, I think the city of Hamburg actually has banned diesel trucks to enter the city at a particular time because of the issues. The same is true in London, where I'm sitting right now. We have an ultra low emission zone, and you have to pay a lot of tax to get through that ultra low emission zone. So these are going to be the realities that we will have to be ready with. So at one side, we have an increasing direct to consumer deliveries. Right now, we don't directly do, Unilever does not do it directly, but Amazon or any other company does it on our behalf. That is going to increase, and second, the cities are going to be more congested and the rules will become more and more strict. There, I think the role of electric vehicles or alternate fuel vehicles is huge. Even today, when I receive deliveries from UPS, there is an electric van which comes to deliver goods to our apartment, to our house. There is electric trucks already plying even for Royal Mail, which is a government organization. I see trucks of Marks and Spencers and Tesco running on biodiesel, even plying during the day. So I think those are the kind of solutions which are already there. And when you talk about Ford's smart mobility solutions or uh, the the um, the electric or zero emission fleet of DHL and many other companies, I think that's the way to go forward. It's not just about the equipment. It's also about how you do define the network. How efficiently do you run in your deliveries? How do you reduce the number of trips? How do you collate orders together? How do you deliver more smartly? so that you don't need to really travel so much on the road and congest the cities and create more pollution. So it again needs a concentrated effort from multiple stakeholders. But we are quite hopeful and optimistic that we certainly can find solutions if we all come together.
So I would say thank you very much. Excited for these answers and for the presentation in any case. So from my side, I think this session was really fruitful. I learned a lot, I have to say. And for me, as a Codognoto, you know, having this cooperation with these kind of clients always is challenging, but really providing coherence, I feel, consistent with our vision in order to improve sustainability in our logistic chain. So thank you very much again to Manuel from Fassa Bortolo, to Ashish from Unilever, and so I leave the panel then to Andrea for the coordination. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you.
If I can point out a couple of topics. Manuel reminds us that we are speaking about logistics, we are speaking about timing, cost, precision, and so right now they are looking for both aspects, so sustainability and on the other side, economic sustainability. And Unilever has this huge approach about sustainability that makes the company on the top level, on the top ranking about sustainability worldwide. I met Joshi, I think a couple of years ago in Rotterdam in a restricted meeting about sustainability, and I was amazed for the approach, and still right now I'm really amazed. Thank you once again to Guido for leading this panel. So I'll open the next, let's say the next fireside chat, where we are going to speak about intermodality. So the person leading the next fireside chat is Alberto Milotti. Alberto Milotti is Managing Director of Zilog Scarl. Zilog is basically refers to the Verona inland port village, so it's basically one of the main important freight villages that we have in Europe in general. Very important for intermodality. As Gruber Logistics, I think we have something like 8,000 shipments per year going through intermodal flows through Verona Freight Village. So definitely Alberto is super strong, super experienced in the matter. So Alberto, the floor is yours, and I hope that you will touch all the barriers that prevent the full usability of intermodality, and what's more important, how we can overcome them. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. So in this second fireside chat, we will talk about multimodal transport solutions. These solutions that will be improved in the next future by all the operators that are working now and will work in the future, I hope. So in Verona Freight Village, like Gruber, like many other, like Codognoto, as Guido in the previous chat told us before in this topic. And the land transport, I would like to deepen, to go further. And my partner in this chat will be Heiko Krebs from Combi Verkehr. Combi Verkehr is one of the main stakeholders we have in Verona Freight Village. Last year in Verona we handled about 16,000 trains, and out of these 16,000, 14,000 were combined transport trains. This means that we contribute to save around 150 million euro of external costs, mainly deriving from traffic, for intermodal traffic from Italy to Germany. In fact, out of more or less 15 million tons that every year passes through the Brenner Pass, significant exchange, import-export from Italy to Germany mainly. 8 of these 15 millions are worked in our freight village. And all these activities, for all these activities, we have to thank our stakeholder, our operator. And one of these is today with us to discuss about the future, about possible solutions to shift freight, to shift cargo from road to rail mainly. So I would like to introduce you Heiko Krebs. Heiko was born in Rostock, in former Eastern Germany. Rostock is also one of the main ro-ro ports and intermodal ports in the Baltic area. So I think since he was young, from his windows he could see trains and vessels and everything concerning transport. So also his education was dedicated to transport, and he's almost 30 years he is working for Combiverkehr, covering many different activities from the terminals, from terminal managers also, and now from the head. He's the head of operation of Combiverkehr. So Heiko, I would leave the floor to you to introduce yourself and your company, and then we will have a chat between each other, and at the end I hope there will be some questions from the public.
Yeah, thank you, Alberto. I hope you are doing well. To see you again. It's a long time ago that we met last time in Verona, I guess. Yeah, welcome to everybody. As Alberto already introduced, I'm quite long working for Combiverkehr since almost 30 years, so I'm a little bit a dinosaur because I worked in this position, but it was never boring, so I hope to continue quite a while. What's about Combiverkehr? Combiverkehr is one of the biggest intermodal railroad operators in Europe. So we shifted last year about almost 900,000 shipments from road to rail. What means one shipment? One shipment could be one trailer or one heavy tank container, for example. So for the maritime business, it's about 1.77 million TEUs. So maybe it's a better comparison to make that volume clear. So what we received in revenue of more than 410 million euros last year. And our daily business is to run about 150 to 170 trains every night through Europe. And my role in Combiverkehr is to make everything possible, to make an easy access for our customers to our network. So I'm responsible for the order to cash process, which means the complete order management from the booking until the invoice process. So, and there are a lot of things to do. I have a very good team, which gives me a very good support, and that's a little bit to Combiverkehr, to what we are doing. We are 50% Deutsche Bahn and 50% owned by more than 220 well-known European transport companies. So, and the core business of Combiverkehr is running a big network, and I already mentioned 150 to 170 trains per night, but through the combination of these trains, we make it possible that the customer can use almost 15,000 connections every day through Europe. So, and our network is our unique selling point. Let me say like this. And why is it unique? A customer is able to book a shipment from, let me say, Oslo to Istanbul. He makes one booking, he gets one invoice, and we try to make this transport really easy, although the unit has to go from Oslo to a Baltic port in Sweden, to Malmö or Trelleborg. Then we have to use a ferry line to Lübeck or to Rostock. And then we ship the transport further on to, let me say, Cologne or to Munich, and bring then the unit to Trieste, to the port of Trieste, for example, where we can use the ferry line to Pendik, and then the whole responsibility for this transport is in Combiverkehr, and the customer just has one single contact point. And I think that makes our network unique and interesting for further shipments and for further transfers from road to rail. Yeah, maybe that's for the time, Alberto.
I saw also the picture at the back on the wall behind you. This is from Rostock, from the port. So this is where
Yes.
you was born, and this is very interesting from my side to hear all the numbers you mentioned about the number of shipment. Every night and every day you move through Europe, mostly in north-south direction, involving also many terminals in Italy. And thanks to different railway undertakings, also thanking some of the partners of TalkNET project, like Locomotion, for example, and on the Brenner especially. And to going on in our discussion, the transport sector is expected to grow in the next future by 30%. And I was wondering also to know from you which could be the role of rail transport. I remember to the public that next year will be the year of the railways from European Commission. So railways are on the top of the agenda of the European Commission, also considering the Green Deal and all the policies towards a more sustainable transport for freight in Europe. So, Heiko, I was wondering about your feelings about to know if, on your opinion, intermodal transport could be an instrument to increase the modal shift of railways, and particularly to shift more cargo from road to rail at European level, but not only at European level, because as we saw in these years, the last 2 years, also the traffic from Europe to China is increasing with very high numbers. And so this could be a very effective instrument to achieve a sustainability of transport. So this is my question to you.
Yeah, what we are doing is combining the efficient rail transport on the long range, long distances, and we combine it with the flexibility of a truck in the last mile operation. So, and I think in both ways, we heard a lot of that today already in presentations before and in the speeches. we are on the way to bring our transport modes into zero emission modes. And for that point, I think that especially the intermodal transport is the right way to bring the industry to the goals of the Green Deal in 2050 to avoid emissions, the net emissions for 2050. So I think we have something to do. There are some things we have to improve. We have to improve our reliability. We have to improve our service levels. And so we took some actions in that way to bring intermodal transport to that transport solution that enables us to make the transport in Europe clean. Yeah, and that is, from my point of view, a big role that the intermodal transport can play, that can give a good support for this policy in the future. Not only in the future, I think we did that already in the past, and we do that right now, and we will do that much better in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Heiko. Very, very clear from this description. And going deeply in this way, many railway undertakings, many operators founded in last month an alliance also to bring rail freight forward. DB is one of the main players also in this alliance. And we are facing a huge challenge now to modernize the rail sector. So digitalization, cooperation amongst stakeholders, and all the different stakeholders, operator, terminals, railway undertakings, infrastructure manager, public sector, all of these has and will have a peculiar role to achieve this objective. And what do you think it is needed from all these players? I know you are an operator, but you can ask also in this moment also to the public and to your customer. So both the ring of the supply chain of the intermodal transport, terminals, customers, but also the public and the infrastructure manager. So what do you think about this?
First of all, intermodal transport is a product of cooperation. So it only can work when every single partner in the intermodal logistic chain is working together, is cooperating. Otherwise, we will not be successful. So, and as an operator, our understanding from our role in this business is a little bit like a conductor. We have to bring everything like in a good concert on the right point and to make intermodal transport working. So that's from our point of view our role in this business, and we have to bring all those participants of the intermodal transport chain to make their work. So, for example, we are demanding an increasing infrastructure program to get more capacities on the rail. We have plans all over Europe with the freight corridors to increase capacity to make the access easier for railway undertakings. This is a really important role, especially also for the Brenner corridor, where we have the challenge to bring up the Brenner Basistunnel to work in the next years, which would be a big step forward for the train operators. We need terminal capacities, and at least we need to bring our efficiency in the whole system forward. So I always like to have a closer look to the American intermodal systems with really long and heavy trains with double stack operation. And I always dreaming about that, making that possible in Europe as well, because then it would be no question, everybody would run the cargo on trains, but we have this situation here in Europe not available. And so our next step is to run 740 meter trains, and all partners in this intermodal chain must be cooperate. That is, from my point of view, the most challenging task we have, and therefore the format of TalkNET I really like, because this is a forum where you can exchange experiences and so on, and make things maybe on a little steps forward, but even the little step is important to get a bigger goal, to reach a bigger goal.
Now, we heard from you what you ask from your customer, from your stakeholder, from infrastructure programs, development programs, from the Brenner and so on. But what can you do in the future as a company, as a multimodal transport operator? I know there are three key issues, three keywords in your development programs that are digitalization, standardization, and simplification. So how can you manage these three keywords in your future programs?
Yeah. As you already mentioned, and as I already mentioned in my introduction, so my job in Combiverkehr is to make the access to our network for our customers as easy as possible. So how can we do that? So we implement new digital solutions for bookings. So we make the invoice processing easier and so on and so on. We have a lot of interfaces to terminal operators to have a seamless transport chain. And this is the challenge for us. You know, Combiverkehr is operating trains with a lot of terminals. So, and it would be a big challenge to have different interchanges, for example, with all those terminal operators. So we have in our way to cooperate also with other intermodal operators, we find a way to standardize the way how we exchange data. So we have a joint project. The name is KV 4.0, KV 4.0. And we try to make all those things in this. So we have one data set, which should be the standard for the industry. Communicating via standard interfaces to the railway undertakings, to the customers, of course, and to the terminal operators, and the communication should be in a standard way. And we want to give a support with a data hub, for example, which is the core goal of the KV 4.0 project, building up a data hub to enable all the partners in the logistic chain to use more data to improve their own business. For example, we talk about estimated time of pickup. We talk about an estimated time of arrival. So we ask our customers to give us the information when their truck will arrive in the terminal to pick up units or to deliver units, to improve our capacity management on the train, to make the utilization better, to avoid empty places due to no-shows, for example, because at this time, the cooperation is not as far as we expect. That we received, for example, from our customers the information the truck will arrive on time or not. So that are really important questions for us to improve the whole system and to make it more reliable, also to our customers, that we can give them a guarantee to transport their units. So I think it's really important to do this. It sounds a little bit not so important, but I think it's really important to give the whole transport chain and intermodal transport more reliability, and so we want to be more service orientated to our customers, because we know that the industry behind is demanding this, transparency in the whole transport chain. That is the thing, the issue we have to fulfill in intermodal transport.
Thank you, Heiko. And I also think reliability of transport is a key point for customers to increase the modal shift, to allow them to move their cargo from road to rail, because reliability is the key point that we need on the network and also in the terminal, within the terminal, with the terminal operation also, not only from point to point during the race sector, the race section.
Let me add one issue. So I'm very proud that we were able during COVID-19 crisis to operate our whole network without any restrictions. So we were able to operate all our trains, and this is, from my point, a good issue to show that intermodal transport is a reliable transport mode. And this is, from my point of view, a very good thing to convince all the partners in the intermodal chain that we are doing a good job. And so that was also a good work from the railway undertakings. But I would like to mention this especially because it is a hard time for all of us due to the crisis and due to decreasing volumes at this time in the system. But we were able to continue with a full network into operation.
Yes, thank you, Heiko. In fact, I think if we work as teammates from terminals to railway undertakings to infrastructure manager and multimodal transport operator in cooperation, so like TalkNET, like our project sets from the title, we can achieve our goal. I don't know if Andrea has some questions from the public to Heiko.
Definitely, yes.
He's running behind the schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I will try to summarize it, let's say, the questions that are coming. And I would love you to answer, let's say, with a list, 1, 2, 3 points, or whatever you want, but to be super quick. So the question is, what's the role of public in the evolution that you have designed? I mean, in the project, in TalkNET, we have a couple of real important rail operators. We have rail cargo, and we have locomotion. They, for example, experiencing in the project the problem of training. They created a methodology since there is not a clear standard, a clear regulation at EU level. So the feeling is that we need more Europe on that. So if you can make a list, as I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, as you like, a list for the public. What are you demanding to the public?
So first of all, we need a clear framework from the public working as railway undertakings. Yeah? We cannot change weights and dimensions every day. So because we work with big investments in wagons, in terminals, in locomotives, so it's really important to have security that the investment is not lost at the end, because you change every 2 years weights, dimensions, and the conditions of intermodal transport. So that's, from our point of view, really important that we have a good and strong framework in which we can work. So the other point is we need fair competition rules. So we just have a discussion here in Germany with the funding of LNG trucks, for example. Yeah? It's not against LNG trucks, but it is possibly a chance that we are losing volumes against the road, because there is a funding program which makes LNG trucks cheaper running on the motorway, because they have not to pay toll. So that is really important, that we have fair competition rules. Yeah, and at least, yes, we need support from governments as well. In Germany, at least the government gives a lot of money to improve the terminal infrastructure, and of course there is a lot of money on the way to give for the network for the infrastructure managers, DVNets, for example. They have to improve the network quality and the capacities. So that's really important to continue that way.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Indeed, I fully support the German government in providing grants. So we have trucks, LNG trucks going to Germany, but I can understand your point. We have also trains, as I said. So definitely, I think there are two elements that need to be supported and put on the same line in terms of support from the government. That's for sure. And definitely, as you said, the regulation, standardization, clear rules is definitely what we need. Definitely what we need. So, thank you very much.
Thank you also from my side, Heiko. I hope to
see you soon.
Hope to shake your hand soon, very soon, by person, and to meet you in Verona or everywhere we have to work together for the sustainability of transport. Thank you again, because I think your contribution to this conference, this final conference, has been very, very interesting for all the public. Thank you very much, and I leave to...
Thank you. Thanks
bye,
also
bye.
from my side. We understood that intermodality means basically cooperation, and that's very the focus of the speech. I mean, that if I have to make a transport from one place by road, it's just to use my truck from the point A to the point B. If I need to do the same road going by train, it means that I'm acting as freight forwarder. I have one carrier for the first lane. I go to a terminal, so another player. I go to an MTO, so an intermodal player. Then there is another terminal. Then there is another carrier. Then there are the two customers from the opposite side, so the warehouses. So it's a method definitely of cooperation. So let's jump to the next point of our agenda. Unfortunately, our next speaker cannot be directly present here. Is Alessandro Marino, Managing Director of Italian-German Chamber of Commerce. Alessandro has recorded for us a speech, and he will present let's say, a tool that will help you to have more information about TalkNet. So, even if you are not here with us, Alessandro, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everybody. I would like to welcome all the participants to this online final conference of the project. I apologize for not being able to take part to the whole conference and to make this statement live, so that I need to record it. ITALCAM's main objective is to promote business development within German and Italian companies. Since many years, we are strongly committed to support the cooperation between Italian and German multimodal infrastructures in order to develop a more efficient freight transportation between the northern side and the southern side of the Alps. The aim is to support all the industries and logistic operators involved in the international trade. Furthermore, our commitment extended to fostering the cooperation among European business support organizations through the participation at different European projects. Consequently, ITALCAM decided to participate to TalkNET project. Our role as ITALCAM in TalkNET was as a leader and coordinator of all the communication, website, newsletter, social media, and promotional activities, as well as event management. Through the participation in the TalkNET project during these 3 years, ITALCAM could achieve 4 main goals: strengthening the network of contacts in the logistic and transport sector, and with institutions both locally and at European level, deepening the relations with local stakeholders, also useful to expand the services already offered by our Chamber of Commerce. Third, strengthening the excellent relationships already existing with the logistic nodes in Italy and Germany, that is the Italian ports, German ports, and freight villages, as well extending them at the European level. Furthermore, we could also amplify the activities as organizer of networking events in the field of transport logistics in a larger European context. All these activities are in line with the main goal of the TalkNET project, which is to improve the coordination among freight transport for increasing multimodal, environmentally friendly freight solutions at transnational level. Now, I would like to give you an overview of the summary book. Through the interactive publication summary book, which I will show you now, we have tried to explain in a synthetic way the process and the activities that led to the development of specific pilot actions. As communication managers, we have had the important role of mediating between the partners to gather key inputs for the project and translate them in the most communicative way possible to the general public in Central Europe. But we hope as well to reach a much larger audience of actors and experts. The collaboration between the main actors of the project has been extended for 39 months and has produced impressive results, which we have collected in 16 pages in a summary book designed to be interactive and accessible to anyone. Within the book, you will find several hyperlinks to the project outputs, including several studies and analysis of the territory, action plans, and pilot actions. On the first page of the project is explained in a synthetic way, and the user has a possibility as well to access a playlist of 8 videos we realized in collaboration with Kodognoto Poland that explains some important logistics concepts. They have already been used also in different international contexts and events. For example, the videos related to alternative fuels and intermodality are used by IKEA and Electrolux to explain the concepts within and outside their organization. The video on the importance of digital cooperation has been handed over to the European Digital Transport and Logistics Forum, which used it during the events. Moreover, the Dutch Ministry of Transport and Logistics is also using it to explain what they are implementing within the CHEF Federated project. For me, it means that we have found an easy and practical way to explain difficult concepts and ideas, but also the issues that we have outlined as critical for the Central Europe area are also very sensitive to other actors. Further, in the summary book, we find the first of the two interactive maps, which summarizes the vastness of the area on which we worked, involving during 39 months, 15 partners, 12 observers, 8 Central European countries and actors, representing ports, freight villages, rail operators, logistic providers, business support organizations, and regional authorities. Going on, we find some important data on the structure of the project, which has produced more than 40 territorial analyses on the state of logistics, 5 knowledge tools, including many best practices from all over Europe, 9 action plans, 11 pilot actions, and 2 trainings. We can see them better in the key map of the summary book, which reveals the vastness of the area on which the project has influenced, acting as an intermediary between stakeholders across Europe and producing concrete examples of international collaboration. By clicking on each of the 5 main clusters for knowledge tools and action plans, it is possible to view the full documents and to deepen the concepts mentioned in the side menus. I invite you to do so because each of these outputs can be an inspiration to improve your logistics. Cooperation is the most important driver for innovative solutions in the fields of eco-efficiency and multimodality. And this is why we created TalkNET, a project that aims at making the collaboration in Central Europe easier. Finally, we have created a tab for each of the pilot actions and trainings that our partners have implemented, obtaining important results, including a feasibility study for the creation of a new terminal module, innovative control shunting system, a new software application to speed up the loading process, a software application to improve warehouse management, a market study for new rail services, a test of new rail service to shift cargo transport from road to rail, a pre-feasibility study on e-mobility services in the free port of Budapest, a test of LNG deployment, a new lighting system in warehouse, upgrade of older locomotives, and finally, the development of 2 training pathways to instruct locomotive drivers. As you could realize during this overview, TalkNET has been very successful in reaching many impressive results involving different international transport and logistics stakeholders. In this way, we could create a significant European network which will surely contribute also in the future to greener and more efficient freight transport solutions. Now, I would like to show you the official final video of the project that summarizes in a few minutes the most important project achievements. I wish you that not only our partners, but also the whole European logistics sector will take advantage of these results. Thank you for your attention. Good luck with your work and stay safe.
In order to make more environmentally friendly multimodal transport in Central Europe, it is essential to develop harmonized mechanisms of cooperation among freight transport stakeholders. Interreg Central Europe targets the development in innovation, carbon dioxide reduction, protection of natural and cultural resources, as well as transport and mobility. All of this in a scenario of transnational cooperation, so to help innovate yet isolated ideas to grow into jointly developed tested and accepted solutions for a far better Central Europe. TalkNET project under the Interreg program has encouraged and improved coordination among key stakeholders to strengthen the integration between ports, inland terminals, transport operators and policymakers towards multimodality optimization and eco-innovation solutions. The results have been impressive. 15 project partners, 11 pilot actions, 8 countries involved. The resize of last mile connectivity on the main transport network, Verona Inland Port, optimization of terminals operations and ports, hubs management systems, Port of Venice, Port of Rijeka, Kodogioto, Poland, the creation of new multimodal services to tackle bottlenecks affecting the several transport routes, rail, road, sea, Verona Island Port, Venice Port, and Kodogioto, Poland, deployment of alternative fuels for ports, inland terminals, and logistics operators, Budapest Freeport, Kodogioto, Poland, deployment of energy efficiency solutions to reduce the waste of energy during handling operations and to optimize locomotives' energy efficiency, Koper Port and locomotion. The training activities were concerned with testing training pathways of energy efficiency deployment in the rail sector, locomotion and rail cargo Hungary. Let's make Europe an even greener place to live. Let's do our job by keeping decarbonizing more and more the transport and logistics business.
Thanks to Alessandro for presenting us, let's say, a glance on the past, what have been already implemented. And, well, I will ask to the next speaker to give us a glance on the future, to, let's say, close this meeting by presenting us what is coming next. So, the next speaker is Hast Zoltan. I hope I could pronounce the name in the right way. We cooperate many years together. Zoltan is an advisor of the Port of Budapest. So hello to all the friends of the port. And Zoltan, the floor is yours for the conclusion of this event.
Thank you. Greetings from the Freeport of Budapest headquarters, and behind me staff members of the Freeport who will give me a moral support in the closing speech. So we really touched upon a lot of topics today. So I tried to give you a summary of what we discussed and how we see the future, and also how we see the capitalization of the results of the project, and how we wish to continue it in the future, our cooperation, if it's possible, with the support of the Central Europe program. So just shortly going through all the main topics, we discussed today that there is definitely a policy or strategy side. So European Commission or European Union has different kind of strategies and policies to cover the area of transport, greening, sustainability, which is really an important issue of globalization, how to reduce emission, pollution, noise, all kind of, let's say, negative factors. Because we cannot go back to those times when on the Danube, cargo was put by oxes or horses alongside the Danube on the road. That's really what's going on 100 years back. So we have to take into consideration also the regulatory framework, because governments, municipalities or regions can have a large influence on what's going on in the transport sector. For example, in city logistics, if there is a regulation that you can move only with zero emission cargo vehicles in the center of a large city like Budapest, it's definitely there is a rule you have to adapt to by logistical companies. On top of the policy or regulatory side, it's good to hear that large companies are moving to a direction when they wish to commit themselves to improve, as it was said, the health of the planet. It's really important to collaborate with all the market players in the greening, which also was a main topic of our project, or a main aim of our project too. Also, have to discuss, and we discussed the technology side, IT, marketing, IT and software solutions can help a lot, but also there is a need for a technology development. So not fully ready yet. There are different kind of solutions depending upon various environments or market situations, from LNG to biodiesel, biofuels, e-mobility, hydrogen. We will see which is the best also for the rail, road, and waterway. Do not forget e-mobility either. So this is really, as you can see, a very complex topic, transportation, hubs. We can work a lot. We can spend a lot of time on discussing the future. Also, it was good to hear that probably under the Central Europe program, there will be a priority, and they will devote further funding for transport projects. Of course, we will welcome that as a, let's say, a successfully operating a project. Let's touch upon a little bit on the capitalization as it has been presented also just previously by the summary book. And in the summary book, we implemented several pilot projects, and we wish to build up on the results of them and also to spread the news and capitalize on the results. So there will be a final study to demonstrate what we achieved. And let's hope that not only our project partnership, but also other hubs or other logistical market players will be able to utilize our results. And finally, just a couple of words to summarize our project activities. So we had a really complex project with a lot of players from all different industries and logistical players, also with a vast budget of a project. And I would like to specifically thank you to the GS, Central Europe Program, who helped us, and specifically Mr. Reed, who helped us to put together a valid project, complex project, which actually resulted in a really practical pilot implementation. And also thank you for all the partnership, and specifically to the lead partner, guiding us through the project implementation. And thank you for the audience, and let's hope that they learned a lot of interesting and useful things during this final event. And as it was referred to previously, just take a look at our website and check our summary book videos. You will find a lot of interesting stuff in that. So thank you on behalf of the Freeport of Budapest for including us in the project. And it was really nice working together with all of you. Thank you.
I think that the message is basically to capitalize the results that have been achieved along these years, to put new ideas on the table, and to go on for the future, spreading in order to have a better impact on the project itself. Well, I will leave the floor to the landlord, I would say, to the so the head of the unit devoted to the management of EU projects and special projects in the North Adriatic Seaport Authority, Mr. James Orlandi, please.
Thank you, Andrea. We are coming to the end, so I would like only to give a couple of messages today to the event. In our point of view, TalkNET is a really good example of Interreg transport project having a real impact on territorial regions based on transnational cooperation approach and to concrete investment in multimodal transport and eco-innovation solutions. So this was achieved thanks also to the quality of the partners. So my role is here to thank the partnership. It was a pleasure and an honor to coordinate such a project. Thanks to the Veneto region, thanks to the Central European Program for their support. It's not common to have 9 ports, core ports together, 3 logistics operators, regional authorities, all together in Interreg projects. So I think the good quality of results are expression of good quality of the team and good quality of the partnership. Special thanks to the work package leaders. They support us in the implementation of the project. Codogniotto, Poland, Freeport of Budapest, Zilog, Freight Village of Verona, and Italcam, of course, Ital-German Chamber of Commerce. And last but not least, all the Venice Port Authority team that have supported the project over this more than 3 years of activity. So as we heard in one of the speakers, I think Edo, multimodal transport is matter of cooperation. So we need to take the heritage of TalkNET and capitalize it in the next programming period. So see you in the next cooperation projects.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much to James for this note. So thanks again to you for the invitation. I really enjoyed. I think that Gruber Logistics really loved this kind of projects, even if we were not involved as partners, but actually we fully support the approach that you applied. You mentioned the partnership. And partnership means organization, but even more importantly means people. So you had good people, you had a great project. Thanks to the speakers for this super lovely event. I think that we achieved our result to make a good event, even if it's not directly with the people present in the same room. We will reach that level. So as you see, we are maintaining also the distance foreseen by the COVID regulations. Thanks once again to the partners and thanks also to the participants. We had for this meeting even close to 200 people participating. So that's definitely a great result. So thanks to all from our side and well, let's see each other for the next project. Thank you.
Freight transport today is easier than in the past. Doing it in a sustainable way is the challenge of tomorrow. Multimodal transport has increased the number of players involved, resulting in growing complexity. Innovation and environmental sustainability have to be considered as part of the game. Cooperation is the most important move to do if we want to win this team play. This is why we created TalkNET, a project that aims at making the collaboration in Central Europe easier. A consortium of 15 partners coming from 8 countries. 11 pilot actions focused on the improvement of intermodal services and innovative solutions for the environment. Our goal? Optimizing intermodal services and promoting deployment of eco-innovative solutions. TalkNET, working together for a shared goal.